SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212.
Tonight, we can do more. Welcoming Sri Lanka's progress made on human rights protection, the EU insists in new counter-terrorism legislation. On the campaign trail, SLPP presidential hopeful Gotabaya Rajapaksa makes a cluster of pledges addressing key issues. Boastful mood. The Prime Minister lauds his contribution to the education sector. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Saturday, the 31st of August, 2019.
Nama Lifebuoy Cool Fresh සහ Lemon Fresh, Menthol සහ Lemon සාරයෙන් 10 කඳ ඇති කරන සංගුණ විස බීජ වලින් ආරක්ෂා කර ඔබව fresh කරයි. විස බීජ off, fresh එක on.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanaiga. Let's start with your local stories. The European Union welcomes the progress made in protecting and promoting human rights and fundamental freedoms in Sri Lanka, calling for the continuation and consolidation of these achievements in the near future. During the fourth meeting of the Working Group on Governance, Rule of Law and Human Rights under the European Union Sri Lanka Joint Commission in Colombo, the need for new counter-terrorism legislation in line with international standards and human rights was also discussed.
The fourth meeting of the Working Group on Governance, Rule of Law and Human Rights under the European Union Sri Lanka Joint Commission was held in Colombo yesterday with the participation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and an EU delegation led by Head of Division for Regional Affairs and South Asia of the European External Action Service, Caroline Vinot. The meeting took place in the context of regular bilateral exchanges between the European Union and Sri Lanka and readmission to the EU GSP Plus scheme. Issuing a joint communique on the meeting today, the European Union welcomed progress made in protecting and promoting human rights and fundamental freedoms in the country and called for continuation and consolidation of these achievements in the future. The meeting also reviewed the progress made in the implementation of zero tolerance of torture. The communique added that the EU reiterated its opposition to the use of the death penalty in all circumstances and encouraged Sri Lanka to maintain its moratorium on executions with a view to abolishing the death penalty. It pointed out that in the context of the Easter Sunday terrorist attacks, EU and Sri Lanka have agreed to strengthen cooperation and dialogue on counter-terrorism in the aftermath of the attacks. The group also discussed the need for new counter-terrorism legislation in line with international standards and human rights.
Now, as the campaign of SLPP's presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa continues to gather momentum ahead of the poll, he addressed several key issues at various forums in Colombo today. Presidential hopeful Gotabaya Rajapaksa pledged his support towards women as he promised to combat macro-finance companies who provide loans at exorbitant interest rates in rural areas. He also promised an end to women and child abuse. Acknowledging the direct contribution three-wheeler transport sector makes to the country's economy, the former Defence Secretary also offered to facilitate an upscale in vehicle along with their standard of living.
The first convention of Sri Lanka Podujana Women's Front was held in Colombo this morning. The convention saw the participation of leader of Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa, SLPP presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the party's national organizer Basil Rajapaksa. We remember politicians getting our votes on the back of meaningless promises. But in the next presidential election, we will remind everyone that women in this country can no longer be deceived by such hollow promises.
Under a government of ours, we will look into people and entities which took advantage of rural women by exploiting their lack of knowledge, by charging unjustifiable interests through various loan schemes which have become popular in the country and provide relief. After being declared the presidential candidate, as I travelled from Anuradhapura to Kandy and from Kataragama to Colombo, what women asked from me was to provide them with a secure country. Within the first year of our government, We will make a hefty investment in the higher education sector, giving a chance for all children to have higher education. Child and women's abuse has shot up in our country today, with the situation degenerating to the point where women can no longer travel in public transport. This has to be mitigated immediately, and I also pledge to see off the drug problem expeditiously.
මේ මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය උවදුර පිටු දකින්නට කටයුතු කරන බවට අපි සාතික වෙනවා.
මේ රටේ කාන්තාවගේ පපු ඇවිලුණු ගින්දර ගැන තේරුම් ගත්ත එකම ආණ්ඩුව.
Our government was the only one which understood the pain of women which burnt in their hearts. I invite all women who comprehend the value of motherhood and brotherhood to join this party. They know that we will establish a government which will protect their children. We're being blessed to create an ethical society. Let's develop a good country.
ජනාධිපතිවරණය ඉහලින් දිනන්න අපි හොඳ රටක් ගොඩනගමු. හොඳ රටක්.
Meanwhile, an audience between the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and three-wheeler drivers organisations took place in Colombo today.
රටේ ආර්ථිකයට විශේෂයෙන්ම ඍජුවම බලපාන
Any government should show empathy towards issues faced by a faction that contributes directly to the economy, such as yourselves. All of you should be given that place. If all of you wish, our government can implement a program that will upgrade your three-wheelers to better vehicles. There are solar-powered three-wheelers. If you wish, our government can facilitate a process where you can obtain them. We promise to make this country safe again. I wish to request your support in the upcoming election and pledge to make this country economically stable for all of you.
මම තමුන්නාන්සේලාට සුබ අනාගතයක් වේවායි ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරන ස්තුතියි.
And moving with other stories, Minister of Ports and Shipping Sagala Ratnayaka cautions that although the Colombo port managed to stay afloat despite various challenges witnessed in the global trade environment, the port is running the risk of being left behind as attention was not given to the port's expansion over the past 4 years. Delivering the keynote address at the German-Sri Lankan Logistics Conference held in Colombo recently, Minister Ratnayaka noted that the global shipping sector is facing numerous challenges where the growth of the industry has been limited due to Brexit, US-China trade war and Russian sanctions. The minister's comments come at a time where the latest data from Sri Lanka Ports Authority show an increase of Colombo port container volumes in the month of April this year by 9.1% compared to the same period last year.
The world may see an economic downturn, something different to what we may have been used to. It may be a prolonged which the industries will have to get used to. I speak here at a time when the global maritime sector is grappling with many challenges that have already impacted the growth of our business. The US-China trade war, Brexit and Russian sanctions have all impacted the maritime industry. Despite the uncertainties over the global trade environment, container volumes are still expected to achieve positive growth in 2019. When compared to the global trends, the Port of Colombo has managed to remain afloat under challenging circumstances. The growth of Colombo Port would dwindle as crucial decisions had not been made over the past 4 years to increase the port's capacity. We fast-tracked the decision-making process on the East Container Terminal and entered into a memorandum of cooperation with Japan and India on its development. Upon completion, the ECT development project will ensure that the SLPA does not lose deep draft vessels to competition.
Speaking at the first German-Sri Lankan Logistics Conference in Colombo, Germany's Vice Minister of Transport and Digital Infrastructure, Stefan Bilger, stressed the importance of maintaining trade relations between the two countries amidst pressure of global trade conflicts.
Logistics, international trade, the free and fast flow of goods is not a game to be played without partners. In times of increasing trade conflicts all over the world, we should again and again make ourselves aware of this fact. But logistic chains also have nodes. It is vital for our two countries that the global economy exchanges goods, that we do business with each other instead of imposing reciprocal tariffs. German companies can offer our Sri Lankan friends their services as partners for the upgrading and operation of the infrastructures and can also be their customers.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe seems to be content with his contribution to the country's education sector, heralding himself as the record holder in allocating the highest sum of money to the sector in the country's history. Speaking in Kuliapita today, the Premier also noted that rejecting the chance for foreign education and instead opting to benefit from the country's free education system got him where he is today.
The commencement of construction of Kulyapitiya Narammala National Technical Education Faculty with Korean aid was marked with the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe this morning. The Premier then unveiled the new medical faculty of Wayamba University in Labuyaya of Kulyapitiya.
මම සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම නිදහස් අධ්‍යාපන ලැබුවේ කෙනෙක් ලංකාවේ.
I was educated through the free education system in Sri Lanka, and I started from the oldest state-owned school in the country. I had the chance to leave for university in England, but I stayed at the Colombo University and I'm here because of that experience. Be it business or politics, I won. I'm proud that the government, led by myself as the Prime Minister, allocated the highest amount of funds for education in Sri Lanka's entire history. During this period, 11 university faculties were opened and no one has that record. 2 medical faculties and 100 hostels were built, in which 36,000 are residing. Vavuniya University too will be opened in the foreseeable future. The future of the country depends on investments made on health and education. No one can break this record.
මේ වාර්තාව කාටවත් ආපහු කඩන්න බෑ.
President Maithripala Sirisena emphasises the importance of politicians, public sector employees as well as civil society coming together in taking the country forward. The head of state expressed these views while addressing an event in Moraweva today.
President Maithripala Sirisena visited the Sri Indrarama temple in Moraweva to engage in religious observances. He also unveiled the new Samadhi Buddha statue at the temple.
We are a proud nation and have used lessons of the past to stand apart as a country. We should all be united in this. All the politicians, irrespective of their parties, should be united in saving the country. All public sector employees should work in unity to develop this country. Citizens, meanwhile, irrespective of their profession, should work together to take this country forward. Now, UPFA parliamentarian Dr. Sarath Amurugama emphasises that for any constitution to succeed, the executive, the legislature and the judiciary should seek to abide by it without attempting to subvert it. Dr. Amurugama was speaking at an event yesterday organised to commemorate former chairman of the Sri Lanka Foundation Institute's Human Rights Task Force, late Sam Vijayasinghe.
Constitution makers have not come up with arrangements regarding minorities which could have the support of the whole House. This has led to the exacerbation of the conflict and a feeling of frustration among minorities. If the executive leader is constantly under pressure to appease Parliament, which is fragmented, that is, if the executive leader is the Prime Minister, is constantly under pressure to appease Parliament, which is fragmented on political, ethnic, religious and regional groupings, he could be paralyzed with unfortunate long-term consequences. This will affect the stability of the country. The role of the President and the Prime Minister has to be sustained by a stable Parliament. This means that their roles have to be viewed in close relation to the prevailing electoral system. For instance, if the proportional representation system does not lead to a clear majority, it will affect the functioning of the Prime Minister, who has to scramble for votes in Parliament and get his legislation passed. This was the rationale behind the proposed 20th Amendment, which is yet to see the light of day.
Speaking further, MP Dr. Sarath Amurugama gave his suggestions on the executive presidency.
In my view, in any future constitutional arrangement, we cannot completely do away with the office of an elected executive president. In a multi-ethnic, plural society as ours, the office of president must be one that all minorities can participate in the selection of the holder of that office. Devolution of power depends on centrifugal and centripetal forces. We need to strike a balance which the office of the president as the unifying force could represent. Finally, no constitution can succeed unless the executive, legislature and judiciary seek to abide by it and not find ways and means of subverting it. Even if the president has diminished powers in the future, a person who has earned the respect of the country could use his moral authority to safeguard the Constitution and achieve its ideal. And unless the Prime Minister and the President can dance together, then I think the future of that country is not very good or is going to be favourable.
SLPP's presidential hopeful Gotabaya Rajapaksa addressed the party's lawyers' convention earlier this evening. What he had to say, coming up after this break. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, SLPP's presidential hopeful Gotabaya Rajapaksa also addressed the SLPP Lawyers Convention in Colombo earlier this evening, where he spoke on the need for an independent and efficient legal system.
Although we still repose our trust in the independence of the judiciary, when looking at recent trends, we must admit to having questions about the independence of some of the other institutions and officials entrusted with upholding the rule of law. Many of our courtrooms are in dilapidated conditions today. It is in this context that we hope to re-implement the program to develop the infrastructure of the court system, which was planned by the previous government in 2014. In the future, I look forward to seeking the advice of the Chief Justice, Attorney General, legal experts, and the Bar Association in order to establish a transparent, rigid procedure to govern appointments when investors select countries to invest in. The efficient operation of the law within the country is one of the first things they look at. Legal scholars should therefore look at improving the mechanisms available for the swift settlement of legal disputes in Sri Lanka, including such speedy and efficient measures as arbitration. There is a popular false narrative about human rights violations, which supposedly took place in the last stages of the war against terrorism. However, this false narrative blithely ignores the many delays in the pursuit of victory that arose from our strong commitment to protect and uphold human rights. Although it would have been possible for us to pursue a faster resolution to the war by using heavy artillery and heavy weapons, we did not. Instead, we chose to pursue victory using only light arms. This strategy was pursued because of the nearly 300,000 innocent Tamil civilians entrapped by the LTT for use as a human shield during the last stages of the war. Rescuing them from danger was our primary aim. This is glibly forgotten by those who seek to attack us on the topic of human rights.
Now, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya criticises Sri Lanka's public sector of its inefficiency, pointing the finger at the inordinate number of holidays per year the sector indulges. His views came during his address at the CNCI Achiever Awards 2019 for Industrial Excellence, organised by the Ceylon National Chamber of Industries. Addressing the same, Chairman of CNCI, Rajai Heva Bowala, expressed concerns over not having sufficient industrial or trade policies in the country.
CNCI Achiever Awards 2019 for Industrial Excellence, organised by the Ceylon National Chamber of Industries, was held in Colombo recently. The award ceremony was organised for the 18th consecutive year to promote industrial growth in the country by recognising and rewarding industrialists who excel in their business processes.
Today, the main problem faced with the industries are very high energy costs and shortage of skilled laborers and not having constant tax system, no industrial policy, no trade policy. When suppose if ministers or government change, definitely the all policies can be changed.
Speaking further, Chairman of CNCI welcomed trade agreements with other nations but urged caution, saying the agreement must not compromise local private sector industries.
Mostly our industries, agriculture and fisheries sector, our value addition to these local agriculture and products is very low. Very, very important thing is we have welcomed the trade agreements. We are welcome. But suppose it may be detrimental effect to the private sector industries, especially if we remove the tariff, duty free and also cess. That's a very bad impact. Any product can be imported without any duty. That will hamper our local industries, and definitely we can't compete the product but the traders are importing.
Addressing the forum, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya expressed disappointment over Sri Lanka's inefficient state sector.
From the parliament itself, we have been saying that although the government changed, let us have policies on matters of national importance, be it in the government or opposition. Now, I'm very happy to report that 90% of the public accounts we are getting within 9 months. In 2006, we did a study and we found that 40% of the government expenditure is either wasted or lost due to corruption. But now come the right to information. Now people are very enthusiastic, very inquisitive, and therefore we have seen a substantial reduction in this. What matters is the productivity, and we are a country where the productivity is somewhat low. We have the highest number of holidays in the world. If you look at the government holiday calendar, a public servant works for only 176 days out of 365 days. Can a country survive? I'm telling you very sincerely, because looking from the private sector angle, because these are the areas that any future government will have to consider. So we have to, change our approach. The infrastructure, there are some areas we need further strengthening. The government policy is a private sector-led growth. Because when the national government was formed, there were ideological differences. That's how a lot of problems came up. In future, we have to agree on a common policy.
Now, Moody's Investor Service says that the credit profile of Sri Lanka reflects ongoing government liquidity and external vulnerability risks. In a new report, it says that key credit challenges include large borrowing requirements with a high reliance on external funding and low foreign exchange reserves coverage of forthcoming economy-wide external debt maturities. In addition, the credit rating agency notes that the government has a very high debt burden, weak revenue generation and very low debt affordability. Furthermore, the volatile domestic political environment can also exacerbate refinancing risks. These credit challenges, however, are balanced against moderate per capita income levels and relatively strong institutions when compared to many similarly rated sovereigns. Moody's expects the government will remain focused on implementing important fiscal, monetary and economic reforms that should strengthen the credit profile over the medium term. Moody's, however, expects that the government's ability to refinance will remain highly vulnerable to sudden shifts in investor sentiment, further tightening in financing conditions and political and policy uncertainty, with limited buffers to mitigate such risks. Now, the Chinese version of the Sri Lanka Electronic Travel Authorization Application System was launched in Shanghai yesterday in a bid to address the language barrier for Chinese travellers who apply for e-visas to visit Sri Lanka. The platform, designed for Chinese passport holders, supports online visa application and material submission in Chinese. Electronic Travel Authorization is an online visa approval system for people on a short stay in Sri Lanka. From the 1st of August, Sri Lanka has exempted the ETA fee for Chinese tourists, and the ETA fee waiver program lasts 6 months. More than 280,000 Chinese tourists visited Sri Lanka last year, making China the country's second biggest source of inbound tourists. We take a look at what's happening around the world after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Hong Kong police has called on residents to draw a line with violent protesters and not to participate in any unauthorized public events. Police briefed media that it has been making follow-up investigations into violent protests and attacks since June and has arrested more than 900 people. The arrests over the past 2 days were not decided on in the last 48 hours, but made only after ample proof was presented. Over the last 2 days, Hong Kong police have arrested several activists, including leaders of political groups advocating Hong Kong's independence, on charges of inciting others to participate in unauthorized gatherings, organizing unauthorized rallies, and knowingly engaging in illegal assemblies. At the news briefing, Chief Superintendent of Police Public Relations Branch also appealed to the public to have zero tolerance towards violent cases, pledging to bring all offenders to justice and carry out duties impartially. On Thursday, the Hong Kong police announced the rejection of an application for a massive demonstration in central and western districts planned for today. Now, the incessant blazing points in the Brazilian state of Mato Grosso has made the operation of firefighting in the Amazon region more difficult. Mato Grosso is the first area to report forest fires and the area worst hit in the Amazon region. Now, the high temperature and strong winds in the state has led to the continuous emergence of new fire points, with lack of rain in the region for nearly 3 months, compounding matters. The Brazilian federal government and the local government in Mato Grosso have sent various forces to support the operation of firefighting, and they have also received some international assistance. However, under the continuous dry and hot weather, new fire points keep appearing and expanding, which is one of the main reasons for the slow progress in firefighting. US Treasury has blacklisted an Iranian tanker which it claims is being used to ship oil to Syria. The AdaDerana 1, previously known as Grace 1, was detained by British authorities in Gibraltar in July after it was suspected of moving oil to Syria in breach of EU sanctions. It was released earlier this month after Iran gave assurances that it would not discharge its cargo in Syria. The US has since tried unsuccessfully to have the ship detained again. Its initial seizure sparked a diplomatic crisis between the UK and Iran, which saw Iran seize a British-flagged and Swedish-owned oil tanker, the Stena Impero, in the Gulf. US Treasury said the AdaDerana 1 was being used to transport 2.1 million barrels of Iranian crude oil for the benefit of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, a branch of the country's armed forces that the US has designated a terrorist organization. Now in tennis, 7th-seeded Kei Nishikori is out of the US Open after suffering a 4-set loss in the Big Apple. No such woes for top seed Novak Djokovic and 5-time US Open champion Roger Federer, as they recorded 3-set wins in their third round.
After slow starts in his last 2 matches, Roger Federer took his game up a notch yesterday and produced a masterclass as he walloped Briton Dan Evans 6-2, 6-2, 6-1 in the third round of the US Open. Federer, who is seeking his 6th US Open title, rifled 48 winners and 10 aces to see off Evans and set up a last 16 clash with 15th-seeded David Goffin. Australian next-gen star Alex de Minaur progressed to his maiden Grand Slam last 16, showing after upsetting 7th-seeded Kei Nishikori 6-2, 6-4, 2-6, 6-3. Stan Wawrinka beat Italian Paolo Lorenzi 6-4, 7-6, 7-6 in a match lasting more than 3 hours. Defending champion Novak Djokovic in the meantime silenced concerns about his left shoulder as the Serbian breezed past American Denis Kudla 6-3, 6-4, 6-2 to reach the last 16. Rush and book a spot in the last 16 of the US Open. In the women's draw, Serena Williams moved another step closer to a record-tying 24th career Grand Slam title with a comfortable 6-3, 6-2 victory over Czech Karolina Muchova to reach the last 16. Meanwhile, 2nd seed Ashley Barty saw off 30th seed Greek Maria Sakkari 7-5, 6-3 to set up a last 16 encounter with Chinese hopeful Jiang Wang, who beat Fiona Ferro in straight sets. Briton Johanna Konta also reached the last 16 in the Big Apple for the 3rd time in her career and first since 2016 after easing past China's Shuai Zhang 6-2, 6-3.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.